and welcome to this first recording of my new podcast. At the time of recording this conversation, this podcast had no name. A few weeks later, I suddenly got inspired to call it the coaching experiment. I am not going to introduce today's guest because if you follow this conversation, you will see that she introduces herself and talks about her journey extensively. But what I want to talk about is one simple thing that was quite profound for me as a learning. Last week, I held a Facebook online challenge called How to Go Live on Facebook with Nothing on Your Mind. And during the adventure, there was one comment in particular that struck me. And it was, there must be a wrong or right way. And I can safely say, there is only your way. And I'm using that sentence to apply it to what I did in this first recording. In this first conversation, I tried to emulate someone else's way of coaching. Why? Because I like it, I find it effective, I find the coach really good. So I try to do what he does, thinking that I would have more success, thinking that I would help my guest to have an insight by using his technique. Now, what happened to me is I wasn't in my element. I wasn't feeling comfortable. I was trying to think in my mind, how does he do it? How does he do it? And it's his way. It is his own approach and his own flavor of coaching. And everybody has their own. So as a result, I was feeling uncomfortable. I was feeling that I wasn't being effective. And I was really caught up in my head instead of giving all my full attention to my guest. Ultimately, it turned out to be a good conversation, but I'm sure it could have been more powerful had I followed my own instinct. So my learning and my message to you is this: stick to your way, stick to what feels comfortable to you. Do it your way, not just in a coaching conversation, but also in the way you build your business. Many of us get caught in the trap of thinking that if we copy others, if we do it their way, we'll get to our destination faster. But the thing is, it's a trap. And not only will you not get there faster, your journey to your destination will be much slower. You get frustrated and you will still see no results. So listen to your heart, listen to your intuition, and do it your way. With regards to this conversation, I'll just say a little bit about it. Carin takes us on her journey. She shows us, she talks about how she overcame all her stumbling blocks, how she used every experience, every challenge to her own advantage. And she's had quite a number of setbacks. She reinvented herself every time. I'll leave you to the conversation now, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for listening. Hello and welcome to the first episode of my new podcast, which still doesn't have a name. And I'm really excited to have my very first guest, who happens to be a Dutch woman living in France. Her name is Carin van Buuren, and I hope I pronounced it correctly. So that's the introduction. I know very little about her. I'm going to get to know her as this conversation unfolds. And basically, I'm going to hear her story. And for you, the listener, if you are a coach and if you are looking to see or outline or bring out what you do and to be able to express it properly and to bring it to pass the message clearly, this would be good for you to listen to so that you can understand how you can, who your client is, what your zone of genius is, what your skills are. This is the intention of this podcast. So welcome, really excited. Thank you for accepting the invitation. Actually, thank you for putting your hand up, Carin. Carin, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Good morning, Diane. I'm so happy to have been invited to your new podcast. But you can call me Carin. I mean,
Carin, okay.
Most of the time I function in English, and so Carin is fine.
Great. So my first question is, how did you end up in France?
That is a very long story, but if I get to the gist of it, the reason was that after a very unfortunate divorce at 42, I ended up with absolutely nothing, that everything I had worked for was gone and put away by my ex-husband somewhere in the Caribbean or in Switzerland. And I got an offer, because I had no home at that time. I got an offer to temporarily run a B&B in a French castle. So at least I had a roof over my head. And then I stuck around, more or less.
Wow. So basically you were homeless. And what you made out of that is wow, that's great. You ran a B&B. That's a nice story. What did you do before you got divorced and moved to France? What was your job?
Well, I graduated as a veterinarian, so that was my main profession. Although after graduating, I never started working in a practice. I was invited to work for the Ministry of Public Health and to design a project. So I stayed in those kind of functions, and that in the end developed to me starting my own coaching business in the 90s. And I was coaching workshops, negotiation and project management workshops for managers of multinationals, and did well. And that was before the time that we all had internet and Facebook and mobile phones. So that was still cold calling HR managers. I did well, and that was the reason why I felt really comfortable until that magically disappeared. And I had to reinvent myself completely.
Okay. There are some things that struck me. Namely, that you transitioned from a veterinarian. You didn't practice. You worked into the the Ministry of Public Health, and then you transitioned into coaching. How did that happen?
Well, most of my life's decisions have been done quite intuitively, and everything that I have experienced in my life has always been quite an organical transition. So I always follow my instinct. I got in touch with somebody that did coaching. We talked about what my career path had been. And apparently, combined with my personality, he said, well, you would be somebody that I would like to have in my team as a coach. And at that moment in time, I was moving from the Netherlands to Belgium. And so I followed train the trainer and slowly rolled into that.
What do you
And
mean? I follow the trainer.
a train the trainer is, well, of course, I was already doing coaching in my functions within the companies that I worked for. Whenever you have the role of a veterinarian in pharmaceutical company, you have to train the people that are working there.
So you did the training.
To
You
sell
gave
the
the
product.
training.
Yeah, and then a train the trainer was for me to become a specific coach in negotiations and to deepen my experience in the coaching practice.
So let me get this clear so that I get it chronologically correct in my head. When you transitioned from the Ministry of Health into your coaching business, what you were doing was training other people to be able to sell a product.
Yes. And I was giving lectures about products, and I was mobilizing breeders from parrots to install a certain program in their business. And so I was already doing a lot of the stuff that we do as coaches, mobilizing people, talking to them, informing them, and then asking them questions, what they need. And I did the same thing with the employees of the places that I worked with, and guided them to become better or to get skills. So I was already doing that, but in a different way. When you've in the world, when you have a certain diploma or a certain degree in that period of time, people just saw you as that. The fact that you get a label on your head, like
So
this
you
is
were seen as an expert in the field because you were a veterinarian.
yeah.
You are still a veterinarian for all.
I will always be one, yes.
Yes. So, okay, it seems like, but you had different. I'm hearing two things. I'm hearing that you were coaching employees.
Mm-hmm.
Was that in the Ministry of Public Health?
No, that was in pharmaceutical companies that I worked for.
Oh, so you worked for pharmaceutical companies. So you worked for pharmaceutical companies. Can you mention the number of companies you worked for? I'm trying to build a history here to see how much you've done and all the experience you've acquired.
Oh dear, that's such a long time ago.
Okay, what sticks out to you most, and what gave you the best experience, or what are you most proud of that eventually got you where you are today?
What I am actually most proud of is not that whole career path. What I'm actually most proud of is that every single time something intuitively did not feel right anymore, wherever I worked, because it's always such a specific format. When you work as an employee, you have tasks and you have to follow the guidelines of the company. And that whenever I decided or felt that it wasn't right for me anymore, that I was able to reinvent myself and look at what is it that doesn't suit me, what doesn't feel right, and where do I want to go. And then in one sense, apparently by deciding that internally, manifesting something new coming along my path. And I have decided to not stick within those labels. Every single time I was once a vet, and then I was a coach, and then I ran a B&B. It doesn't matter what I do. I just bring me and my capabilities. And I think that is the thing that I'm most proud of, that the person, me, is more important than what I do.
The person, I'm going to write this down, I'm going to say it again. The person, me, and the labels is more important than what I do.
Yeah.
So, and now you are, I can't pronounce the word. Begins with
now
an
now I'm again something completely different. I'm a sophrologist and a mindfulness
and the mindfulness, sorry, I interrupted
and
you.
a mindfulness practitioner.
Can you a
sophrologist?
Can you spell it for me, please?
Yes, it's SOPHROLOGIST.
And the mindful practitioner. Okay, so can you tell me a little bit about what a sophrologist does?
Yeah, well, after the B&B, I went back to work in a practice as a veterinarian, and I had a work accident. And the work accident made sure that I could not work as a veterinarian anymore because I damaged my hand. And then I had again to reinvent myself. And I thought, what shall I do when I'm 55? I still want to stay in sort of the domain where I have contact with people, like you have in a practice every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And again, organically, every single time this word came on my path, sophrology, I did not even know what it was either. I had no clue whatsoever. So every single time it sort of popped up wherever, I read a little bit about it and I became interested. It is a combination of Western science and Eastern techniques. It's a method developed by a neuropsychiatrist in the 60s who was unhappy with the way his patients, his PTSD patients from the Franco time in Spain, were treated at that time, with electroshocks or insulin shocks and a lot of medication. And he wanted to know, how can we restore balance within people, within their consciousness, when they have been shaken off their feet by life events. And so he became a student again himself. He was a personal friend of Viktor Frankl. He studied with all kinds of psychiatrists in Austria, Binswanger. He went to relaxation, muscular relaxation from Jacobson. And then he moved to the East to study with the yoga guru of Indira Gandhi. He met the Dalai Lama and he studied with his personal physician to study Buddhism. And then he went to Japan to study Zen meditation with the monks. And after all this, he combined all these techniques into one methodology called sophrology, which stems from the Greek and means the study of consciousness in harmony. And it is all really nice, but I still did not have an idea what it was. So what it's like, great, beautiful. And what I found out along the way, that what it does, it gives you a sort of a power toolbox, your own power toolbox to deal and to tackle whatever comes on your way, whatever circumstances happen in your life, so you are better able and better equipped to deal with that. And it's deceptively simple, like meditation. So we use gentle body movements. We guide people into a certain state which is above hypnosis, where they are still very much present. And then we guide them with tension release, muscle tension release exercises. We do visualizations. We unlock answers that are already within you. When you get shaken up by an event in your life, it's either an emotional shaking, or there's a body issue. And at that moment in time, even when you solve the problem, afterwards there's still a backlash. There's still things that linger on. Our body does not function without our mind. There's a big connection. When you are stressed, you get physical symptoms. When you have an emotional shock, your body reacts and responds to that.
Mm-hmm.
And to bring that back into balance, there's this whole set of techniques within sophrology that will help you to get back to that homeostasis, that state of balance, that state of calm that the body needs sooner. And it gives you the tool, it unlocks within you, what do I need? And what I liked about the method is that it makes sure that you do not become a victim of your circumstances. It makes you responsible to act with your own healing. So it might be, for instance, that you have an accident like I had. So I had to deal with the fact that I could not be a veterinarian anymore, which was part of my identity, of course.
Yeah.
I was the doctor. I came into the practice in the morning, was hi doctor, and people, clients have a certain
they look up to you.
Respect for you. You have a certain esteem, and then suddenly I was not that anymore. How do you deal with that? Or people that have cancer, how do you deal with the fact that you can't trust your body anymore afterwards? And sophrology has helped me do that, and then some more, because then I found out actually what it is to be authentically me. No excuses, no more covering up behind whatever I wanted to project to the world. It unlocks a lot of, it's like going on an internal journey. What do I need? What do I want? How do I want to stand in the world? What are my values? It's a very complicated method in the sense that it has 12 levels, but the techniques to guide people are actually quite simple and very effective.
Sounds very interesting. And this is what you are doing presently.
Yes. The thing is that in France, sophrology is very, very well known. It's even reimbursed by the National Health Insurance. So in France, it's a method that is very much respected, and general practitioners and all kinds of Western medicine specialists refer people to sophrologists as a complementary therapy. So there's a lot of them here. There are not very many sophrologists that are English speaking. So I was trained in France. I studied for 2 years. So originally, all my techniques, I acquired them in French. And now I'm trying to spread the word because I became so passionate about it.
Yeah.
And there are 3 in the Netherlands. And as far as I know of, and those 3 people are French. So yeah, I'm going to try and spread the word, and especially now, I was going to start, and with this lockdown, of course, we can't do the one-on-one sessions. We have to do things online.
Yes.
I am building behind the scenes to get the momentum going whilst I can't go anywhere else.
Okay, so would you say that a large percentage of your clients are French?
At the moment, no. There's also an American lady in the Netherlands. So and there's there were some events planned where I was going to spread the word in English, and those, of course, are all cancelled. So.
Yes, for now, until the measures get relaxed.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're leading up right now to the purpose of this podcast, and that is to highlight what I see and why clients would want to have a conversation with you. Okay, and I was going to say something else and I forgot about it. Um, and yeah, I remembered. And I think that there is power in stories, and there is a power in being ourselves. And it is something that you really highlighted, especially when you went through your accident, your work accident, and then you came across sophrology, and you damaged your hand. You really had to ask yourself really basic questions. Who am I? What am I covering up? How am I going to be authentically me? And I think our clients are not attracted to what we know, but who we are and who we are being and how we show up. And from what I see here, the common thread that I see is that every time you ended up in trouble, so to speak, or you were challenged in your life, and it's something that you spoke about yourself, the thing that you're proud of most is that you listened to your intuition and you allowed yourself to be moved organically from place to place to place, until it suited you. And when it didn't work, you asked yourself again, let's move on, let's change, I'll reinvent myself. And you have had really a I couldn't catch up with you when I was writing notes. You have had a very adventurous, exciting, I suppose, also not with Dalen, with ups and downs.
Oh yeah, big downs, big downs.
At the
You
same
don't
time,
know. You haven't even heard 10% of the downers. You will need 5 hours.
so what I see is you're a veterinarian. You, you. I think what struck me most is that when you were divorced and you ended up with nothing, you saw an opportunity and you moved and you ran and you started to run a B&B. So that to me is a leadership quality.
Well, I have to admit, I'll be really honest and vulnerable. For 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
I drank, I smoked, I didn't sleep, I cried, I put my nails in the carpet, and I cried towards whatever is up there. Why me? And after 3 months, the earth still hadn't opened itself up. So I wasn't swallowed. So I thought after 3 months, yeah, I can do that. I can keep on doing the same thing. But nothing will come. Nobody's coming to help me. I'm not disappearing. So I had two options. It's either, stand up and start doing something,
Or
or
dig a grave.
or dig the grave myself. Yeah. So that is also a thing. I think if you hit rock bottom, um, yes, things happen to us, and it's not easy. But then you
Mm.
always have an option. And maybe if you go through some sort of major trauma, you start with baby steps. It's getting up, getting showered, having a coffee, because I hadn't done that for 3 months, I think, either. So it's like, you go down a deep hole, but when you are at rock bottom, the only way you can go is
It's
up.
up.
But I think humans have a certain innate resilience.
Oh,
Look
for
at the
sure.
look at the stories everywhere in the world where people are born where they're way less fortunate than we are.
Yeah.
So what I did was, started watching the news and seeing people in Afghan refugee camps, and I thought, what the hell am I crying about? It's like,
Okay. So
it is what you do. You grasp at every straw. The only thing I regret is I did it the hard way. And we are fortunate enough that coaching has become a thing in the last couple of years. So people do not have to do that on their own anymore. That there
exactly.
are now quicker shortcuts to go back, instead of, going through that
To
on your own and
climbing out of
the
the
hard way.
metaphorical grave. The metaphorical grave is can be simpler if people choose to ask for help. So let me
Yeah.
continue drawing on your story. Okay, so I went through what you went through because I found myself on the streets in a foreign country. And but what strikes me about you is that you every time you moved into something new, you followed your mojo, you followed your inner wisdom. You went from working in corporate, I suppose, with with your employees, with coaching them, with managers of multinationals. Then you moved again, and what else did you do? Yeah. And then you gradually transitioned into coaching full time. And then you went back into being a vet, and then you had your accident. In all of this, as I was saying before, you followed your intuition. And I think the most important part for many people is that they don't listen to their intuition. They listen to their mind rather than to their inner nudges. And now you're a sophrologist and you're practicing. So you have clients. Can you tell me, because I would come to you if I were a client because you're authentic, okay? Because you really did the work. You really show up as Carin. Why would, what sort of client do you seek to work with? Because we all have preferences.
Yeah, well, my preferences have always been women, not because I think women are more in need, but I do think that there are a lot of double standards for women. I started writing a book, The Down and Dirty, on double standards, because I've always felt restricted myself by the double standards.
Mm.
The reason why your BU concept appealed to me is because unfortunately I'm blonde and a woman, and what made it really difficult is that I always try to be invisible, because when I was invisible, I didn't draw attention to myself. And a lot of women are. I have been working here with a group of elderly women, and they are a little bit older than we are, so they are even a generation more up, where you see that they spend a lot of time taking care of their husband, taking care of the family, raising the children, and then they arrive at 50 and 60, the children go out of the house, they go into menopause, and then their function is sort of over. The younger generation does even a harder job, because they have to juggle being a professional woman and then doing all the rest of that on the side. And what I see is that most of those women lack a certain confidence in knowing who they are, and don't even realize how amazing we are, in the sense of resilience and in the sense of that intuition, being half witches that we all are. There are so many things we can develop and cultivate and reinforce within us. And especially because women do have the label of becoming, when they become emotional, it's like, oh, we're overreacting. If a man becomes emotional, that is really bad, because when men cry, oh my God, the whole world stops. When a woman cries, it's like, oh, we're over emotional. we're oversensitive and
Mm.
things like that. It's so for women to find that place of inner peace, of inner calm, and
Mhm.
be really rooted in who they are. That is something that I would absolutely love
Okay, but if
to
I
be able to.
were, okay, I'm going to try and condense it, okay? It's my job right now is to, or it's not my job, is to see how your story and how all your experience can actually help someone to come to you. And
Yes.
I'm gonna try and I'm repeating myself now because I've already seen what you do, how you do it. What I'm interested in to know briefly, though, is how would you use your sophrology to bring awareness to the fact that women are not this emotional baggage. Women are more than taking care of their husbands. And women are much more than society has created them to be. They've been pigeonholed, and you don't believe in that. How would sophrology help them to realize this? Or do you use any other methods to help people come to this?
Well, what sophrology has done for me, so that is because I had to go through the whole process becoming a sophrologist. I had to do the work myself for 2 years. What it has done for me is it made me become the author of my own life. It reinforced me in really knowing who I am, what I want, what I do not want, how I can cultivate or reinforce or mobilize capacities and capabilities that I think I lack to move forward in a certain way. And there are techniques for that in that.
Okay.
And finding the answers that because sometimes we already know things are not good for us or things are not working for us, but we ignore it because the society or the circumstances ask for us to stay in that situation. So what sophrology does, it helps you, first of all, make the right decisions for you, to listen to what is going on inside, what feels right or what doesn't feel right. So it makes you stronger in that sense. And then even if the circumstances are fixed and you cannot get out of them for a while, sometimes you can't get out of your house because it is not sold, or you can't get out of your job because there's not another job possible, or you can't get out of the relationship because you have to otherwise divorce and there's still children. There are so many circumstances that we have to be fixed in stay in that situation. In that case, sophrology helps you to deal with that in the best possible way so that you do not
Go under.
go under. Yeah.
So, okay. The reason someone would benefit from having a conversation with you is because with sophrology, with the techniques that sophrology offers, a woman can rediscover her own inner toolbox
Yes.
and come to the surface and discover the truth of who she really is and not of who she thought she was. And also, if she finds herself in a situation which is difficult, traumatic, sophrology and the techniques and your input and your guidance will help them swim through the seas in a much easier way. They would navigate their situation much easier with your help. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I always say it sort of reconciles you with your past. It makes you stronger and rooted in the present, mind-body connection, and it helps you move forward more positively and more strongly towards the future that you want to create. What I like about it is that it is three-dimensional. And mindfulness, that I what I did first is more in the present and in the now.
I wouldn't like to dilute it now. I'll stick to this for now. Otherwise, we're going to
Yeah.
give
Too.
too
Yeah.
much information. I mean, that's you can use during your actual coaching or coaching. I don't know exactly what to call it, but it's not important at this time. I think we have quite a clear picture of who you are, what you do, and that what drives you most, or the most important part of you is that you allow yourself to be guided through your intuition. And I think you can help people rediscover this, and because you've done it so naturally over the years, people would really benefit to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, well, the thing is that I now only realize because of the conversation with you, I sometimes have to be put with my nose on that thing also to realize, yeah, I did do all that. Sometimes you tend to forget how strong you are and how resilient you are. And I think that is valid for a lot of other people, that you forget sometimes the inner strength that you have because you are so, in English, up your own ass, and you're so knee deep in your own shit
Yeah.
that you can't get into your helicopter and see, oh dear, I have all these capabilities that I used, for instance, then and I forgot all about those.
Yeah.
And that's what we also do in Ethology, to unlock the doors again, like, hey, but there's
But
also
that's why
me.
conversations are so important, because what I do is I ask questions, I bring out the story, and ultimately the story is you. They're not,
Yeah.
I mean, everything you've done is you.
Yeah.
It's still yours. It's a story, but it is what will draw your clients to you. I think there's nothing more to be said. Thank you for your time. It was very, very exciting for me and for the first time. And I guess that's it.
I highly appreciate the fact that you allowed me to talk about something that I'm passionate about, but more so that you have given me again a little view on a part of me that I had forgotten all about. So that is really, really amazing. I will keep that with me for the rest of the day. It's very nice, positive feeling of, hey, you see, that is what I can do.
Wonderful. Thank you.